Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Southwick Conservation Commission Monday, June 5th, 2023 meeting. It is 7 o'clock and the meeting is being held via hybrid as well as in person here at the Southwick Town Hall land use room. We'll just go around from a commissioner standpoint and introduce who's here. Hi, I'm Andy Wu. And Dave McWilliams. And on Zoom, I believe we have
Norm Cheever.
Thank you, Norm. So we have enough for a quorum. So we can proceed with the business at hand. We're going to start off by reviewing the minutes from our May 15th, 2023 meeting. So has anybody had a chance to go through these? Pick up any...
Norm made some changes that Gene, I believe, is incorporated.
Okay. Thank you for that. Has anybody else picked up on anything that needs to be adjusted or corrected?
Good to me.
All right. Then if we don't have any corrections or additions to the minutes, I will take a motion.
Move to accept the minutes.
Jerry made a motion.
I'll second if Norm didn't just do that.
Kevin seconds. Andy?
I'm in favor of that. Aye.
Davis and I. Norm?
Aye.
Excellent. And well, Matt hasn't joined, right?
No.
Okay. At this point, we have a couple of minutes for our first hearing. Do we have any public comments? Come here, big guy.
No name,
From that.
no name area.
How's it going?
Good. How you
How are
doing?
you?
Running.
Yeah.
Just for the record, Commissioner Mehmet Mazanagul has joined the meeting. So all we've done right now is reviewed and approved the minutes.
Okay.
And
Asking for public comment.
we are asking for public comment. So is there anybody here in the room that has public comments for the commission? Nobody? Okay. How about online?
Okay. Joanne?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Joanne LeBlanc, 38 Reservoir Road. Just to let you know, the link that was sent, that is on the town website and that was sent in the email does not work. I had
Which
to actually go into Zoom and type in the meeting ID and passcode, but the link doesn't work.
Okay.
It says meeting does not exist.
Interesting.
Yes, I got a text message to that effect as well.
Thank you. So if you
You have
click
to
on,
manually type it in.
so you can't click on the link in the document?
That's what she
Correct.
just.
Yeah, correct.
But you can type in the meeting ID number and password, right?
You have to go onto the Zoom icon and actually
Right.
manually type in the meeting ID and then the passcode.
Yeah. Okay. As long as that's working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
you're
You see
welcome.
that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you that have been able to figure it out. I'm sure the rest out there can do the same. So we certainly appreciate the update.
Well, they just heard the instructions how.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it was right
No,
there on
if they
Zoom.
can't make it on the meeting, they didn't know. They can-
Sorry.
Right on.
You might want to just update the hyperlink though, because it does make it difficult driving. Just
No, I'm in
as a
agreement.
heads up.
I've never had really much luck typing that stuff in, so. So I'm gonna move on to the 7:05 hearing. It's a continuation for 662A College Highway. I believe the applicant has asked for a continuation. Is anybody here or online for the applicant? Okay, so that's gonna be continued till our next meeting, which is TBD. We'll get
Oh,
into that
motion. You need to make a
conversation.
motion.
So I would like to hear a motion to continue.
Make a motion to continue.
Well, Matt, do I have a second?
Second.
Jerry seconds. Andy?
I cannot speak to this matter.
Oh, you
Oh,
repeat.
right on.
Excuse myself.
Dave McWilliams, aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Norm?
Aye.
All right, good. I like it. We're moving along pretty quick. So we're gonna go into new business, chapter 61B, right of first refusal. There are 0.26 acres off of Fred Jackson Road that just came available, coming off of, chapter 61. So it's pretty. Hey, whoever's on Zoom, would you guys mind muting, please?
Agreement amendment number one at 52 Bungalow Street, 8,000.
No, wait, I
Sorry.
You can mute them.
where can I mute them? Is it under participants?
No, if you click on them, on
Oh,
them
the,
themselves,
oh, mute. Okay,
okay?
okay, great.
All
thank
right,
you.
great. So looking at this property on Fred Jackson Road, I saw an email from Bert Hanson from the Agricultural Commission. He was thinking because of the size of the piece of property, it's probably not something that they would be interested in having the town look into. What are the thoughts of our board? Do we want to send any kind of letter or notice to the select board as to our intentions for this property?
What is the piece of property next to it, the Walter E. Johnson Irrevocable Trust?
Right.
Is that already some sort of preserve or conservation? But,
I
you know,
remember that.
I would think the worst case scenario is the guy that owns this house would buy that parcel.
I think,
Tiny
I
little
think
piece.
that's what's happening.
It's the only one it's gonna be of any value to, based on these maps. Unless Walter E. Johnson is already some sort of preserve.
Quarter acre.
So the trustee is considered the seller to White Locks. So the larger portion, oh, hold on, let me just
Oh,
get this.
it's the same guy.
Whitlock?
Pieces.
So the Walter E. Johnson Irrevocable Trust
Yeah.
is selling that piece of property to the White Locks.
Right.
Maybe we're gonna put a garage on it or something.
What are these little dotted pieces there? Is it wetland or something?
No idea. No, I have no idea. Because if it was, I don't think it'd be a dead straight line between the two pieces of property. You know, if it was, it'd probably be carried over. It's probably just shading it to show differentiation from the other piece. I'm gonna take a minute and just pull it up on my phone to see if I can get a better sense of where the property is.
Do you want me to try to bring it up on the,
You could.
let's see how fast I can
I
go.
thought it was just my eyes.
Here,
It's a little sliver. This is it.
like this stuff, they cut all these chunks off.
Yeah, it was took me a minute to get my bearings, but I know where it is.
Yeah, the general
Some
idea.
pieces
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
I'm like, nothing,
Oh,
and
the same
this
thing happened to me.
these are
is,
just house
Thing
lots.
is, the piece is land.
They whacked out this.
There's not even any
You know,
road access to it.
Right, it's a quarter
this
acre.
is off of Fred
Yeah, yeah.
Jackson.
This piece, so off the driveway.
No, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, that-
Yeah,
Well, the Whitlocks might just need that big
Yeah,
piece of land or something.
right. I think personally, there's bigger fish to fry if we're gonna be going after land. And I personally don't have any interest in it, but
no, I agree. It's a quarter acre and it's landlocked, so.
so you guys just wanna move on from it then?
Yeah,
We could just send a message off to the select board, letting them know there's no interest from Concom?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Norm, you in agreement on that?
I am.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on. So there is a request for certificate of compliance for 194 Granville Road. So Sabrina has some history on that one. She can
Yeah,
please share?
so they originally asked for a complete certificate of compliance. I went out there on a site visit. I noticed that the grass hadn't been completely grown in, and it looked like there were some areas of erosion, not a lot, but you could tell that it hasn't been completely stabilized. So I mentioned that to the applicant, saying that the Conservation Commission probably wouldn't sign off on it. They would prefer to have the grass fully grown in. And I think with that, he came back with a request for a partial certificate of compliance. But he has since asked for a continuation. I'm not sure if it's a continuation on the parcel or partial or the full. I assume the full. So that's the history of that. But there's something I wanted to bring up. I noticed that some new growth of Japanese knotweed in areas where fill had been brought in. And I had said like that could be a concern for the Conservation Commission. I don't know if you guys want to discuss that tonight, like if you see, because Japanese knotweed is really hard to get rid of, and it is known to decrease property value. Not 100% here in the United States, but at least in Europe right now, it is starting to decrease property value and there is like lawsuits happening because of the Japanese knotweed. So I don't know what you guys want me to do, like bring it up that there's Japanese knotweed, not bring it up, or
Doesn't it say something in the order of conditions, like the standard order of conditions about invasives? Isn't there language?
I looked at this one and I don't believe it had mentioned anything like that. But I think it's just best practices anyways, like you're possibly bringing in an invasive within the 100 foot.
No, I
You know what I mean?
understand best practices, but
Yeah.
I think it should really, from a legal standpoint, need to be written out. So if it's not, we should probably look to make sure that's on all future orders and conditions. Because, right, we don't want
We don't want it.
breeding of invasives. So.
Yeah,
But they want to just continue at this point?
they do want to just continue it.
So, we'll continue this, but I'll have to take a motion to continue.
Make a motion to continue.
I'll second the motion to continue.
Andy seconds, Mehmet made the motion. Kevin?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Norm?
Aye.
Right, so before we go on too far on this topic regarding partial certificates of compliance, I know there's new people on the commission and just want to bring you guys kind of up to the speed where things are historically. We've never approved a partial certificate, right? It's either the job is done or the job isn't done. We keep seeing people come to us and asking to do a partial, which could have an impact on the bond, right? And our goal is not to release the bond until the work is done. Now, people have come to us and asked us for accommodations without doing certificate of compliance, which we can certainly work with. But this was, I think, the second request for a partial in a week. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We're not in the business of at credit.
So like, you had a guy come in and remove some of the stuff down by the waterfront. I think they've done a lot. Remove some of the silt fences. So that's what you're saying about like some kind of issues. And what would one
That's
gain?
an accommodation.
What would one gain by getting a partial? He's looking to like release part of it.
Well, and that's a good question. I'm not sure what you get out of it. Now, let me take that back. There are instances where we do partial certificates of compliance, but that's mostly for developments where a contractor has bought a large swath of land and they're breaking it up into house lots. And they'll be looking for a partial certificate of compliance to release that one lot so that a property owner can take it over, an actual builder can do it. So that we've done, and that's common practice. But for a single dwelling, again, we haven't been doing it, and I just don't think it's good business sense to do that. So,
Just wondering like what would be the gain from this guy? What's he looking for? Because I've read the stuff and I don't see like what's his ask.
I
I
don't,
just want a partial I want a partial release. but it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
say
mean,
what am I releasing from?
And we haven't gotten that either. So if there's a 10,000 bond, is the partial saying, give me $5,000 back, which, again, that's not that.
It's a $300 bond.
Right.
We're talking about $150 here.
Right. So I just want to make sure before we see any more of these come in that we've had that conversation. But again, from an accommodation standpoint, that's a different situation. So,
So is that what you want me to basically let somebody know if they do that we don't typically?
that's right.
And then if they won't have money.
Yeah, Sabrina and I talked about that today. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so what she was asking is, can we give her permission as a committee to inform people that we don't do that, so that it doesn't wind up on the agenda and people don't come in for things that aren't really gonna ever get done. So, I would like us as a committee to give her the authority to tell them, hey, that's not something we do. So I.
Single property.
The single properties. So I'm gonna take a vote on that, that we will give Sabrina the authority to just inform people that we do not do partial certificates of compliance, and I will take a second. Second. And that seconds, Andy.
Aye.
Norm,
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And Kevin?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Request for plan alteration, 157 Feeding Hills Road. Do we have anybody for the applicant here? Hi, Steve. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Well, thank you.
So I guess I won't ask for a partial release.
You are getting nothing. I'm liking it.
Okay, so Crepes Tea's house was approved for a notice of intent to build 3 gazebos in a floodplain, riverfront, and wetland buffer zone. They also were approved to build a nice patio sidewalk thing.
I would disagree. I think we approved the gazebos, we did not approve the law.
Well, March 1st, 2001, when we submitted our plans and all that, it showed all that was asked for. Yeah, I know.
Just actually go get that.
And there's extra. And to be honest with you, I wasn't here I didn't think that was the issue. I had
A separate thing?
a separate thing.
So let's do your thing. And then
No,
we
we're on yours. Let's,
okay.
so, and also in that submittal, we were looking for, hand these out. We demonstrated that compensatory storage was extremely negligible considering the size of the floodplain here and what we were putting into that floodplain. All right. And so in that little table, it shows the 3 gazebos that were there, that were proposed. It shows the handicap ramps that were proposed, and it shows the walkway. In our computations for compensatory storage and the request for the dismissal of compensatory storage because of the nominal increase in the floodplain for this site. Those sidewalks were at 0 elevation, so they weren't going to contribute to the floodplain because they were at 0. And that was all part of our submittal. So I always thought that was part of the things that got approved, the 3 gazebos, the ramps, and the sidewalk.
I would have to go back, honestly, and read through the minutes on that.
Yeah.
Because I think, and I may be wrong, and perhaps you can, why don't you come on up
Yeah, just,
and just introduce yourself, please? So there was, are the sidewalks here different than you would propose like nature paths?
Oh, it's different. Oh,
So
it's
that's different, okay.
It's different.
The nature paths, we
Yeah.
said no to.
Yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Listen, I just want to make sure, yeah.
Yeah.
no, Dave, that's, Mr. Chair, that's fine. Right, we're not,
I came before with lane, I came back and asked specifically, how lane, do they have to be up, down? They said they have to be level with the ground, not higher, not lower, has to be
Right.
level with the grass.
so that's why I say that the walk that's shown on the plan, the gazebos and the ramps are what we applied for. Were they previous pavers? They're pavers, they're not concrete.
It's paved.
Pavers. The pavers, which the water goes through?
Yes.
Right. We also added some plants in the buffer zone. Our plan was there that got approved, and to be honest, I didn't even contemplate that the sidewalk was an issue at this point, so.
Yeah.
I think I
remember the improved space.
Right. Right, exactly. Right.
No, keep going.
So the reason I'm here is I need your guidance in our, here's just one sheet that shows, it shows the property and it shows the wetland floodplain to the south, and it's very large. So somehow or another, we applied for a total of 600 square feet of gazebos to be built at a certain elevation. We had a profile of that, and that's what we used for our calculation to show that the net impact of the floodplain was negligible, all right? And the commissioners all agreed to that. Somehow or another, and I'm not sure how, the gazebos became larger than what we had on our plan.
I think
Yes.
you can see that driving.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it
I don't
was,
know how that happened.
I'm not sure if it was a metric conversion or, but the gazebos that are built, that are actually built, the largest one was supposed to be 20 by, excuse me.
So
The original
original
one-
submittal, 15 by 20,
Yes.
10 by 15.
Correct. So
Okay.
the 15 by 20 became 20 by 24. And the other ones became 20 by 16. So they got a little larger than they were supposed to. And I don't have an explanation for that. And, but the net result is what we're more interested in, is that the net increase, the original ones displaced 165 cubic feet. All right, and the original ones displaced 128.4 cubic feet, and the new ones displaced 165. So there's a net increase in displacement of 35.6 cubic feet.
Okay.
Which still in the realm of the size of the floodplain on the property and down gradient. Down gradient has been developed and will not be further developed. This is owned by the town, so there's not going to be any increase in development in that floodplain.
This is the actual property right here, right?
All right, yes, sir.
Yeah. And this is like the wellhead area back here?
Right. And so you're still talking about, I think, I couldn't find it, but our calculation at the time was the increase in the floodplain on the site alone, if you just relegated the floodplain to the site, was going to be like 1/16 of an inch. And so if you now extrapolate that out to the floodplain, it's just negligible. And that was the whole premise of us saying, you can't really take that compensatory storage from someplace and have it make sense. And that was the premise that we went with, and the commission agreed to it, because it did make sense. And now we're looking at, we now have a net increase of 35.6 cubic feet, which is in itself fairly negligible. So my question is, on the other part of this is that when we came in with this, we we hadn't been educated by the acting conservation agent at that time about concurrent filings. And we have since been educated with that. And so we came in with this, looking for the Conservation Commission approval.
Yeah.
And then to go for approval for building use and all that sort of stuff. We've since discovered that the best route is for zone change and not to pursue the special permit. And so at tomorrow's meeting, we're going to withdraw from the planning board meeting. We're going to withdraw the special permit request and then seek zoning change. So what happens is that the handicap ramps aren't going to be built until they get approval to use the buildings for their design purpose. So we have gazebo, we have sidewalk that's built to specs. We have gazebos that are a little out of spec, but still, I believe, would be considered not a huge increase.
Yeah.
And then we have ramps that are not going to be built until we get the special permit.
So the ramps are already
Or not
part
the
of the
special
plan.
permit, but the zone change, excuse me. Yeah, those ramps are right there. They're just
Yeah.
not, they're not even there yet. So
They're not.
But that's already calculated into
That's
the numbers that you've given us.
that's calculated to our numbers, correct. And so having,
So what are we looking at here? I'm sorry. So you have a bunch of proposed stuff here, but now you're saying that, what is the order in which these things are supposed to happen?
well, the gazebos would have been built, the ramps would have been built, and the sidewalk built concurrent with approval from the planning board for their use.
Okay.
Okay? But they cannot be approved through the current mechanism. We have to seek a zone change. And so that now pushes everything out farther. And what we were hoping for until your last comments were a partial release.
Well,
Or some sort of remedy because, or actually what we need to do is have you guys yay or nay the increase in this gazebo size.
right, which, okay, just so you know, and you probably do know, this is all virtually done.
So what?
Everything here is done, except for the handicap ramps.
Right.
Right.
The gazebos are built, the sidewalks are there, the dumpster's sitting right there, which I'm a little uncomfortable with the location of the dumpster, to be honest with you. It's right next to the creek, right next to the
But we
river.
not built that. It was previously built.
That's where it
Okay.
was, yeah.
But, you know, and I think I went on record with the planning board saying that I personally was disappointed with the change of the plans. That, you know, what was built there is absolutely not what was presented to us. I mean, we were told there was gonna be gazebos, but, you know, there was no expectation of glass and doors and stuff like that.
Oh, like
There was-
cabins.
They're supposed to be open air gazebos, which now we have glass and stuff right there in the floodplain, right next to the river, which, you know, to me is problematic. So to say we want to go ahead and give relief, I'm uncomfortable with that right now, because it seems like, you know, an inch was given and a yard was taken. So my question to you is, instead of asking for relief, why don't you explain to us what it would take to provide the additional compensation for that additional floodplain impact? What could you do from a construction standpoint to compensate for that?
To compensate for
Well,
the
yeah,
additional 35 cubic feet of soil.
right.
They could scoop out some dirt on the other side of the river. But they'd have to access it, which now becomes problematic.
Going on the other side,
Right.
which is probably, it's not your property anyway.
It is.
It's
He owns on
still-
the other
yeah,
side of the
it's
brook.
still,
A little space on the other side of the brook.
Yeah.
But to access that is now problematic. And that's where the whole concept of,
All of the sidewalks are done, including this landing down here. This is
Yes.
all done.
yeah, you should take a walk down there. It's pretty cool. But the point is that the proximity of where their actual usable space is and the remaining portion of where they could possibly have taken compensatory storage just didn't seem to be worth the effort of, you gotta get across the brook, you gotta do, you gotta somehow do that without causing other issues. So it seemed at the time that the least impact on the whole scenario was to just say, it is negligible, and it's not really gonna add to the overall floodplain of the property or of the general flood. The general floodplain there is huge. And our calculations before showed it was like 1/16 of an inch on the property itself. You now extrapolate that out to the floodplain, and it will not make a difference.
What is the, so the old one was 1/16.
Basically, yeah.
Have you done the
And
math
this-
on the new one? Is it 1/16 point?
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's really fractional, extremely fractional. And so is it worth trying to, I understand the concept of compensating, and I get it, we do it all the time. We believe in it just like everybody else. But there comes a point where, does it make sense? And I think in this particular instance, and then maybe in this particular instance only that I've ever done, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
So there's two things that are needed. You need our approval for the variance of the buildings.
Right, that's
And then two, you need our approval for the increased floodplain impact.
I think they go hand in hand, right? If you don't approve one, then the other's
Yeah.
by default gone.
So you say that the buildings were marginally increased. This went from 10 by 15 to 20 by 16. That's a double in size. That's not a slight
No
increase.
marginal.
And you keep saying the word gazebo, and my understanding is these have heat and electricity. Gazebos don't have heat. They're outdoor structures
They
designed
don't
for
have,
some.
they
I
don't
thought
have
there's
heat.
mini splits on them.
No,
Right, that was my understanding, is
No,
there
no,
was.
no,
But
we have,
like,
we
if you
have
go up to
electricity.
Summer house and sit in the gazebo, the mosquitoes can bite you, and you don't sit there and watch them. They don't have walls. They could put screens on their gazebo.
Understood?
You continue to use the word gazebo, there continues, in my feeling, to be deception. You came in and asked for 10 by 15, you built 20 by 16. That's not a mistake. That doesn't happen by accident. If I order X and get Y, that might be a mistake, but chicken and fish are not mistaken, and 20 by 16 is a lot bigger than 10 by 15. If we go ahead and approve this because there's negligible difference, what do we tell the next guy that makes a mistake and says, oh, but look, there's negligible difference? He did it last time when there was negligible difference.
I mean,
How do you get around that?
I just wanna say, honest mistake from my side. I don't know how nobody catched it. I have no idea. I've been kind of, because I find out that way too big month ago when we had this meeting and with planning, when they mentioned 600 square feet, I'm like, why 600 square feet? And later when I look at the plans, yes, it says 600 square feet. And later when I looked at this plan, I find out the size is like, this is when Heat just brought up to me like, wow, we made them too big, and they done, you know what I mean? Like, and I would never invest money if I know way too big. How that happened? It's like, I have no reasonable explanation, because builder never catched it. I never catched it. We've been looking at the plans. We've been trying to put in a situation where we are like, you know, it's a drawing, obviously, you know, and how that happened, I have no explanation. I don't wanna lie, you know what I mean?
Right.
And for me to invest all that money, knowing I'm already like, you know, like overtaking, it would be easy to fix it there on the spot if I knew that, you know? But since, like, you know, we just go on with the plan as we're building, you know what I mean?
Right.
How I have no explanation, but you guys be a judge, obviously, like, what is impact, what can be done next? You know, it's my mistake, I'm acknowledging, you know what I mean? I'm not staying away, I'm not trying to lie, I'm not trying to wiggle my way out. It is what it is, it's a mistake, you know? How that happened, I have no explanation. I'm just thinking possible, because I saw one plan we had built 2 versus 3, and 2 versus 3 has 20 by 20. So maybe this kind of triggered, but when we stay on the plan and we
Changes
measured,
the size, changes the proximity to the wetland, it brings it closer in itself as a problem. And the same thing happens with that one too, as well as maybe not this one, but these two for sure. So you propose with a certain distance, and then you make it bigger, and now it's closer. Same thing here. So,
I think
don't know.
they more this way.
get rid of
You gotta remember, these are elevated, so they're not on the ground.
No, I remember you came in because you had to change the,
Steel to cement.
right.
Because we
And
called
if
the
you-
steel company, they said, we're gonna be waiting for a year if we
Right.
wanna put the steel. And we're like, we have a permit only for a year to build them. We're like, okay, so what do we do now? Because now, we have, disturbance with, like, I remember when we tried to, cut everything over here and we had that big water just coming and, almost giving us like a nightmares. We try to make sure bank not gonna swim
If you look,
away.
Mr. Chairman, on the chart, commissioners, you'll see that under the gazebo columns, there's a 4x4 footings. We changed that because what we had initially thought was we was gonna have the helical coils.
Yep.
They're kind of ugly, and so we were gonna have them put 4x4 PVC tubes over them to cover them up. And so by substituting that with the concrete, didn't make a change. And that's why I think the commissioners said, okay. So
Cover,
those were already calculated, 4x4s were already calculated into the equation.
Is it a matter of square feet? If we were to satisfy the original square footage, I hate to say it, but if you were to get rid of one gazebo, would that
It
solve
is-
the problem?
I don't know.
If it's a square footage issue, I know you put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah,
What are you hoping to get from zoning?
A zone change for business use, which would then allow them to grow their business in the appropriate zone. Right now, as a pre-existing non-conforming use, they really can't grow their business. If it's in the correct zone, then by right, under zoning with site plan approval, this would be a no-brainer, other than conservation issues, And so, I mean, they do have other issues with the septic design, but here again we go, their water use records indicate that they are well below what their design standards were for, so there's no reason they shouldn't be allowed to increase that. There's a mechanism through DEP to allow us to increase the capacity, the seating capacity to match what the flow records would be and everything else. So the whole site was probably, if it had been in the right zone, would have been able to handle things differently. So that's what we're gonna do. And what that does is for any future use or for any future growth that Crepes Tea House wants to do, or down the road if they want to sell it, it's in the right zone for it.
But like you said, we still have the conservation.
You guys are a separate concept. There's conservation and there's planning. Exactly.
Try to work out a compromise of some sort.
Right. And so,
As
you
far
know-
as growing is concerned, wasn't there an issue with the septic as well?
that's what we're just saying.
Yeah.
The septic designs requirements for a restaurant are 35 gallons per seat. And when you do that calculation out, the septic system was designed for 3,200 gallons per day. But I got their water records from the water department, from the time that place began till the time Crepes Tea House took it over. And their maximum usage is a third of what the requirement design is. And that's even after COVID, when everybody got to finally go out and go to restaurants and eat, and everybody just went out to places. Their water usage for 6 months was a third of what the design standard. So we're gonna approach DEP and look for a reduction or an increase in the seating capacity based on water records, which is allowed,
So when are you guys doing zoning?
as soon as possible. The next town meeting is next available chance, so we have to submit to the select board, get on the ballot for the town meeting and go that route.
Okay.
So it's not gonna happen now.
Yeah.
But what the client was looking for was some kind of okay with you for where we're at. And if we get that, then it makes sense for continuing forward with this other option.
Were you, sorry to interrupt, were you
Yeah.
also looking for a certificate of compliance once that was,
Well,
if it is
obviously,
okayed?
yes, but we couldn't because the ramps aren't gonna be built until, he didn't build the ramps because they can't be used until you get permission from the
Right.
planning board building inspector. So he didn't put those in so that they couldn't be used, right, that way. So the certificate of compliance isn't gonna happen for a bit until we get our zone change. And in the meantime, everything's held up on, for him from the bond aspect.
So around the table, I mean, what are some of the thoughts?
To Mehmet's point, I would wanna see a map showing where these actually are, if you don't even know where they are.
No, I laid them out. They're built where they are. I measured up to make sure they're at the right elevation. I was ready to come in for a certificate of compliance. We measured up on the buildings and then we started measuring buildings and went, something wrong here. And so we couldn't come in with a certificate of compliance until we did this.
I think what Mehmet and Andy are saying, not to speak for them, but I think they're saying, how do we know that these are exactly as far away from the wetland as you stated they are?
If they're
since
double
the
in
size has
size,
changed?
which direction did they double in? Towards the wetland or towards the
Right.
street?
Well, that could be easily shown.
Right.
We'll have to do an as-built. At that point in time, I just put the brakes on because it's like,
Right.
oh, these are different.
So can I make a recommendation to the members at the table? I would like to see that, just to see what kind of impact it has, and it does give us an opportunity to kind of digest what you're
Sure,
talking about.
absolutely, yeah.
You know, and again, I'm just gonna go back to, I'm a little disappointed in what I've seen over there. It's not at all what was presented to us. And from a commission standpoint, you know, there's other applicants right behind you that are coming in and they're seeking permission to do something. And it kind of diminishes what we do if applicants submit a plan, we approve them, and then do something totally different than what we've approved, right? How do we hold people accountable to what we're charged with holding people accountable to if people just ignore what we say? And I get if it's a simple mistake or not, it's an issue that still needs to be addressed. And that's our job. It's not a fun job sometimes, it's not a
No, I
comfortable
understand.
job, you know, but it's still something that we have to do.
It's a
So,
credibility issue. It
yeah,
really is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a big deal. It is a big deal because it's one for all for all. You know, that means just that we do an exception for somebody, then the anticipated expectations that we'll make an exception for the next guy. And it's not about exceptions. It's not. There are rules and regulations and expectations based on what you present. If you go change that after what you presented, then it creates doubt. So that's really the primary issue. And I'll tell you, in the past, we've had people who have come back to us on a change of a monument, let alone structure. Said pilings, we said stones, they said stones, they couldn't find the stones. They came back and said, we're gonna have to do something different. I can't find the stones, whatever the story, but that's an example and it's real. I'm not making it up. So, that's kind of where I'm at as a commissioner personally. And you know, I think this behooves at least a site visit at this point to see the structural change in size. Has it changed anything to its proximity to the wetland that was originally a certain way and now it's something else? Maybe. At least we need to put eyes on that.
can you provide us that
Yeah.
delineation of where we were told they were gonna be and where they are? And when you let us know when you have that, then
Right.
we can schedule to come out and take a look at it,
Absolutely.
all right?
Right.
So rather than, does anybody else have any other
That
comments?
seems reasonable.
Is there any feeling towards like number 2 being put further towards the existing restaurant? If it's a concern that it's so close to the wetland, as compared to just demolishing it,
I think moving
make
it,
it go on the other
Yeah,
side
put
of
it
the
but
together.
correct me if
I
I'm
don't know.
wrong,
May not
even
even be
moving it
necessary.
doesn't change what you're requesting,
Yeah.
Moving it doesn't move it out of the floodplain.
No,
right?
So we have two things going. We have the size
Right.
and we have the floodplain increase. Again, from a overall standpoint, the increase is very negligible in the floodplain. It just is. Granted, this change in the structures is more monumental to you than the change in the floodplain.
Right.
And I get that. And so we can certainly do a quick as-built to determine where the actual locations are
Yeah.
and give you a plan and schedule a site visit.
Okay. So why don't we, so I'm just gonna assume you're
Continue.
asking for a continuation.
We're asking for a continuance.
You are, excellent. So why don't we vote on that? Do I have, hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue.
I'll second that.
Andy?
Aye.
Norm?
Aye.
Dave, aye. Jerry? Aye. All right, so
When is the next meeting?
we're gonna have that conversation because right now, the next two meetings actually fall on holidays, and that's just, we have to figure out a date. We can't go that long without a meeting, so we just gotta pick a date. As soon as we know.
Right, your pay is,
We might have,
And then we won't lose.
we've done it before. It could be a Tuesday.
I won't
Yeah.
keep it, you can keep
Yeah.
it.
oh, okay,
That's good.
your pay would be cut in half if you don't have 2 meetings in a month.
Exactly, exactly, and that stipend is big. Let me
This
tell you,
gets very long.
yeah.
Yes,
Put it that way.
I know.
All right, so
That's not a,
you let us know, and
Absolutely.
then we'll go from there.
very good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we're moving on to a possible wet violation, 31 Sam West Road. Sabrina, what do you got?
It's the one we went out to. Do you wanna do an update on that?
Oh, yeah, okay. So, right, so Sabrina and I, and we talked about this, I think, maybe at the last meeting. We were notified by a member of the public that it looked like a pond or a pool was being filled with silt along the rail trail. So Sabrina and I went out and took a look at it. Turns out it's a vernal pool. There's tadpoles galore, and there's a big river of silt coming down from the side of this embankment, filling in this particular pond or pool. Going a little further upstream, we also see that there's another pool a little further up that actually has stumps and stuff that have been dumped into it. The back half of it, we can't even tell where it ends. So turns out it's in the back of TJ Bark Mulch. So we met with the owner of TJ Bark Mulch, the manager of the property, took them through it. They have agreed to figure out a plan. They're gonna hire a wetland scientist to put together a plan on how to mitigate the damage. There is some concern about who the actual property owner is. In one hand, he's saying it may be TJ Welch. The other hand, he's saying it may be Jesse Saltmarsh. But he is the one, in fact, doing the work, so he's willing to do the mitigation. We still, I think, at some point need to understand who the property owner is, because ultimately, it's not who does the work that's responsible, it's who owns the property. So, they're gonna, like I said, hire a wetland scientist. As soon as they do that, we'll go back out. What they were going to do is build a berm to keep any additional silt from running down into the resource area. And then they didn't want to go in there and start doing work because they could do more damage than good. So they had mentioned they were going to hire somebody, and as soon as they do, they'll get back to us on that. But they are ceasing and desisting until they come to us. Okay? So next thing, emergency certification issued for 104 Berkshire Ave, removal of a dying tree which poses safety hazard.
Yeah, so I went out on a site visit with Randy Brown, May 30th, and Randy had confirmed that this tree was a safety hazard. I think a branch fell on their dock at one point. So we issued an emergency certification to remove that tree, and of course, I put in the conditions to replace the tree with a native species, and I gave them the list of native species, and I also had written out in the certificate to provide a photo once that tree has been planted. So that's been issued out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next one, possible violation of 15 North Pond, unpermitted work within 100-foot buffer of Lake Congamon. So this came up kind of last minute. The property is owned by the Hess family, and we were notified by somebody that there was a patio being built within 20 feet of the lake, and they wanted to find out whether or not the work was needed. So both Sabrina and I have spoken to the Hesses. There was an NOI that was put in place for this property that included the patio that's being built, right? In the interim, the property has changed owners. The original owner asked for a certificate of compliance, which we signed off on, which means the bond was withdrawn and all work had to cease. The new owner didn't know that a certificate of compliance had been issued and thought that they were still eligible to be building the patio because it was on the plan. And we told them it wasn't, right? That they need to stop. They're gonna, so essentially what it came down to is they've agreed they're gonna file for an RDA. They're gonna come in and they're gonna get approval on the RDA. We will put a new order of conditions in place. We will collect a bond from them like everybody else, and then they can go about finishing what they're doing. They're very agreeable to what we were talking about. Again, like this past gentleman said, just kind of an honest mistake. So there you go. All right, the next one. Request for a partial certificate of compliance for 141 Congamon Road. Come on down.
Good evening.
How are you? Can you just identify yourself?
Ken Eggleston, 141 Congamon Road.
I can.
Hello. Good evening. Hello again. I think Ryan is.
He is. I see him online.
Yep. Hey everyone, Ryan Nelson from Arlevec Associates.
Hi, Ryan. So, Ryan, you were on the call at the beginning where we talked about partial certificates of compliance, right?
Yes, I did hear that. Yep.
Here are my spiel on that.
Yes. So,
And I know we've had that conversation before.
yep. So I think Ken can correct me if I'm wrong, but the premise of this is at the majority of the site improvements at 141 Congamon Road are done. The parking lot, the retaining walls, the comp storage, the plantings along the shore, the fencing. Really, the only work left to be done is some exterior building work and installation of the docks. And the reason why Ken is requesting this is so he can remove the silt fence and kind of put the finishing touches on the lawn along the shore, because he's hoping to get the docks in and the silt fence is in the way of installing the docks. So,
okay.
Yep.
However, if you'd like to grant a full COC without partial, that would be acceptable as well.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen, I think, but we can discuss it. That's
What
what
is it that's not done that would stop us from that?
All right. Do you wanna?
Well, we got, so, a couple of things, right? So, not having a certificate of compliance does not keep you from being able to put in your docks, right? The certificate of compliance that you have with us is regarding shoring up the shoreline and the embankment. You can go ahead and put in your docks, all right? So we're not keeping you from putting in your docks. The certificate of compliance is, as we discussed today, so Sabrina and I stopped out there today, is to make sure that erosion doesn't occur along the shoreline. The silt fence helps with that. Those green locks that I think we all agree are well out of place down there need to be put back into place so that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing. It doesn't do any good. The green locks, if you remember, we talked about the hairy wattles that are gonna save the shoreline. In some places they're 5, 6, 7, 8 feet out into the water, which isn't doing any good. So those need to be tucked back in. The silt fence should remain. You can go over or cut a space through it if you want to put your docks in. We're not going to stop that.
It's not for dock purposes. I'm more interested in taking the silt fence down so that I can put the barrier where it belongs against the shoreline.
Green locks.
The green lights. Well,
Yeah.
you keep calling it green lights. The word green lights were used, it's really Filtrex. It's a
No, I
Filtrex
think
material.
that, yeah, I think, I even remember we were told they were called green locks.
Yeah.
That was just a type of,
Okay,
but.
so
type-
Filtrex.
Right, it's a Filtrex material. Green locks was just one brand of stuff that was recommended or talked about, but the final one was a Filtrex material. But
So,
what do you think that the silk fence is doing now? There's no more work being done down there. All
well,
the
what
growth
the
is
silt
there, the
fence
grass.
is actually doing right now, it's standing between the waves and the water and the shoreline, that this Filtrex is not on. It's on in the most southern end of your property, but the remaining part of the property, it's not there. So as I said, you need to get that up to the shoreline. All
The
right,
silk fence is in the way of doing that.
then I guess we can discuss removing the silt fence to do that. My issue is if we allow you to remove the silt fence to do that work, what is our guarantee that's gonna be done quickly?
What done quickly?
The moving of the
Oh,
Filtrex.
it would happen at the same time. I'm not taking the silk fence out until I can move that at the same time. It's not like I want to take the silk fence out tomorrow and maybe work on that over the weekend or next couple of weeks. I'm talking about doing both at exactly the same time. Take the silk fence out, pull it up. So, like all in one thing, one move, one operation.
So what we talked about before is we don't do partial certificates of compliance. We can make accommodations for people that need to get work done while they're still operating under a certificate of compliance, but we're not gonna release their certificate of compliance at this particular point. I don't believe so, but we want you to get the work done. So let's figure out how we get that work done. But there are other things that were concerns, in particular regarding the plantings.
Yeah, so the plantings that I saw on site today, they were called shadblow, Americancheer canadensis.
None of that means anything to me.
Yeah,
But
that wasn't on the list of plantings that were approved. You had high bush, blueberry, serviceberry, and white bush. I didn't see any of those plantings, and the only plantings I did see were basically where the docks were. I didn't see them in the southern portion of the property along the shoreline.
I could speak to that. So if you look at the latest NOI plan revision during that order of conditions issuance, revision H. Actually, I think we added the plantings earlier, but shadblow is a synonym for serviceberry. It's the same species. And high bush blueberry was also on that plant list. It's on the bottom right of the NOI filing plan.
Hold on one second, Ryan, I'm cracking it open. So this is the latest revision H?
6/15/22. I have something, but it wasn't the complete. 3/6/23. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is cut.
Yep, the last date was 6/15/22. Yep.
Okay.
Okay,
that's the H, that's what we're looking at.
so this is what's on the planting list.
Yes, that's on the planting list.
Where do you think that there are no plants that you?
I didn't see any plantings here, and I think there's a couple of plantings actually missing in the northern part now that we are looking at it. The only plantings I saw were right here.
No, I think you need to go back and take another look. All these plantings are here. These are here, as is these trees up top, but these are all here. And there's bushes, not bushes, but some kind of berry things that are planted along here.
Did you see any? I didn't see any down there.
I don't recall seeing them, to be quite honest.
I just
Well, you
remembered
didn't,
seeing
you didn't
grass.
walk in that direction, but they're right here.
We came up and we looked over in this area when we met up with you right here, and all I saw was just grass
No,
right here.
there's,
Yeah, because remember, we had the conversation about the grass.
yeah,
When
grass.
we were standing there, we talked about the grass. Actually, now that you mention it, I don't remember seeing bushes.
Yeah.
The grass is pretty tall. There may be small bushes in there. I don't remember
They're
seeing
there.
them.
Yeah, they're
But getting back to the crux of the issue, right, is if we're gonna allow you to move the silt fences and move those things up to the shore, we're gonna have to come back out there anyways. We can look at those when we come out there. All right? So I think I'll throw it out to everybody at the table. What are your thoughts about allowing the removal of the silt fences to pull in the Filtrex?
Is that the only thing left to do? So that if plantings are done, which he's saying they're done, it's possible they were missed. Are we done with everything other than pulling the Filtrex up and then removing silt fence, and then he's done? Is there anything else you guys saw?
Yeah, that's what
when
I'm
you were
asking.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing anything else.
So it's-
There is the question of, do we want that Filtrex to grow anything? Otherwise, it's just gonna be a mesh. I mean, it was starting to take on, there's actually mint over there, starting to grow in part of it, I noticed.
The only thing I
But-
would say about the Filtrex, you could go on jobs that DPW has done, and they
Yeah.
put those in, and there's nothing growing in theirs either,
Yeah.
so. Go on
Yeah.
to
So is it
Jackson where
just-
they replaced the culvert, I could show you a ton of those logs, and there's nothing growing in those either, so. I guess that, I mean, I understand what they should do, but
Right.
Public Works also puts them in all the time and doesn't see them either.
Well, you were saying, he was saying like he was gonna do two things in unison, removal and something else. I missed the second part, so, but I mean,
The silk fence, were you gonna draw something?
So you have
Yeah.
the bank,
right,
and then there's silt fence right here.
okay,
And then the Filtrex is like a giant wattle
right,
that's supposed to be right up against the bank
right.
to keep erosion from happening.
Mhm.
This is not right up against the
It's
bank.
floating in the water, you said.
It's sitting
In
on
some
the
places.
bottom.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
what
okay.
he is asking, can he remove the silt fence so that he can pull that back?
To the shoreline. Now, there is a lot of growth at the shoreline. There's grass growing. You took a picture, a couple pictures.
There is grass growing, but I think what the issue was the undercut that happens under the grass, and then just the continuation of the waves, and nothing protecting it, and then you would eventually lose that little top layer of grass down the
And,
Well, I
road.
think
you
we're
know,
gonna look at it.
regarding the concern, do we need it to actually grow?
That's what I'm, I'm
My
asking.
feeling is that we need it to function,
Right,
how it looks aesthetically,
yeah.
that's up to him.
Mhm.
I don't think it'll look great if it doesn't grow,
Yeah.
but that's, you know, if it does the job, then, you know, it's not up to us, I don't think, to determine how pretty it is, you know. That's up to the people pulling up on their boats.
Can I see a couple of the pictures that you took? Because you were standing in that area
Yes.
where those bushes would be. I remember, and he asked you, are you taking the picture? And that's where you would have seen the bushes down in the shoreline.
Let's see.
And the berry bushes probably are not in your picture, because they were right beneath.
Regardless
So-
of what's in the picture, we're coming back to look at the Filtrex
This,
Right.
moved up,
Oh, afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
this
just,
is,
but we can look at, so we can look firsthand again.
this is the line of your property in the south part. If you look up here,
Yeah, the
I don't
boys
see
probably
any
built up.
plantings
That's right.
here. I just see grass.
no, the plantings are here, here, right there. That bush here. There's a bush over here,
Right. I can see.
right there.
Right.
The wood, some green coming out of it, another one there.
When were they planted?
Before today.
Right, I just,
2 or 3 weeks ago?
so do we want to wait more time to see if they actually take?
Well, we're not gonna release the certificate of compliance, I mean,
Do you have another picture closer to the wall or the?
I don't think so.
Right here. Here are the berry bushes right here.
but you were asking, see the snake out
This one
there?
here?
See how the Filtrex is out there?
Yeah.
I want to remove the silk fence and bring all that right to the shore where there is already plenty of vegetation growing.
You gonna stake that in when it's at the shoreline?
Yeah.
Are you gonna stake that in?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do any good if it
Well,
goes
that-
floating back out again.
Right.
And I think that was part of what occurred last time. But the other thing was that when the silk fence went in, I don't know what happened. It went in front of the Filtrex, and that obviously wasn't a good thing.
Right.
It should have, silk fence should have gone behind the Filtrex, but the guys
Does that
installed.
thing stay until it becomes, is it ever removed, or is it just kind of?
That's
No,
why I
it's
was wondering, should it start
supposed to
growing?
Just kind of
stay.
dissolves out?
Biodegades and
suppo-
grows grass,
Okay.
supposedly.
Okay.
Does it biodegrade?
Yeah, in 3 years or something, it won't be there.
I think maybe,
There is some
can we talk to the order of what happens? Maybe pull the thing first, secure it really well, have us come take a look at it, then take the silk fence out. Because I think it's more of a cosmetic concern, maybe.
Well, the silk fence is in the way of putting it in the proper position.
Uh,
And the silk fence is under sand, you know, it's undermined underneath.
Right.
So I can't bring it, you know, unless I were to pick it up over the silk fence, it would be extremely difficult, and drop it in front of it, but I think that really defeats the purpose. We're not doing any work down there
What's
anymore.
that?
Yeah.
So I think the purpose of the silk fence is
Ryan
gone.
can't see.
You're trying to stop anything being dropped into the lake
Right.
from what we're working on. But we're not beautifying as much as I would love to add dirt.
Like in the hole there.
Right here.
Yeah.
I was told, don't do it. Where I'm standing, this is me standing here, that's gonna be as part where the docks are gonna go out. Behind that is a platform that people can step up to and walk from
Right.
there to here. But there's gonna be a ramp going out to the docks right here. And as I told.
Who's gonna
Kate-
do the work?
Which work?
The removal and the moving? Is it the same people? Whoever removes the silk fence, are they gonna be removing the Filtrex as well?
Or replacing.
Moving.
Yes.
Replacing this Filtrex.
Yes.
Okay,
Who is
so
that
it
going-
should happen simultaneously.
As I said it would.
Okay. Can you let us know the date you're going to do that, so that we can be there?
That is not scheduled at this time.
No, but you can,
Sure.
obviously, you know how to get a hold of us.
Right.
I know how to get hold of Sabrina.
Right.
You know what time I come in now.
That's probably the right person to get a
When
hold
I'm
of
coming.
anyways.
When you don't have other places to go first.
What do you guys think?
Seems reasonable.
Yeah, move the stuff around, reestablish it where it's supposed to be.
Reestablish
the
it,
issues
makes,
that you're
you know,
having,
that's,
you know?
Okay.
it's stable and, you know. then-
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would say is just make sure that it's staked, whatever the specs are, I'm sure, like, you know, it usually says every 2 feet or whatever it is.
Right,
that we're
otherwise
putting
you're
to
gonna
it.
get
Yeah.
I'm gonna attempt to reuse the stakes that are there,
Yeah,
you know, that silk fence are there.
Otherwise they'll escape again.
Norm, do you have any questions? Is he still on?
Only thing I can say is that whoever installed the Filtrex obviously didn't know what they were doing.
I think,
It
I
was
think
staked- it was not staked in place. I hope it's gonna be somebody new that's gonna fix it.
I think that's why we wanna have somebody out there when it's done.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was thinking it might even be me, but we'll see. Not that I know what I'm doing any more than the people that put it in,
Let's
but
get
they
someone
should
that
know, they
knows.
do it for a living. It was staked. At one time, there were stakes in the ground attempting to hold it in place.
right,
I can't say that I have any pictures of that, but
it's okay.
they did put it in with stakes.
So, I think we've agreed, go ahead and do what you're gonna do, just make sure you let us know if we come out there and we see that you've done it without us knowing, we're probably gonna make you put the silk finishes back in and go through it all over again,
That's all you'd make me do.
for now. For now. And take your gazebo down.
That would be the starting
Exactly.
point.
In regards
Yeah, I think you
to,
guys are making a mistake on a gazebo. Make them replace the entire thing back to the original.
in regards to the paperwork that you dropped off for Jean, she said that's not sufficient for chapter 91, proof of chapter 91. So if you have that certificate,
No,
just give her a copy of that, so
And
your
the-
docs can go in.
Select board has it. If I don't, you guys don't get copy on all that stuff?
No,
Alright. I can get you a copy.
Doesn't work that way.
yeah.
I know, that's been a problem for
Okay.
2 years as far as I'm concerned.
Times will
Make
change.
any statements or anything?
I didn't know there was a conservation board 2 years ago.
What's that?
I didn't know there was a conservation board or a select board 2 years ago.
There you
I
go.
thought it was only the planning board.
What do you want to vote?
A year after
Yeah, I think we
playing
should
with
do
the planning board, they tell me, okay, now you gotta go get
Okay.
conservation permission.
All right, so let's do a vote that we're allowing him to move the silt fences. So we've got one that doesn't count. So you're making the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a
That-
second?
I'll second it.
Yeah, thank you. Right, everything we discussed so far. Do you want me to word it? Like,
I got it.
I think we talked enough about
Yeah.
it, so, yeah.
So Norm,
Right.
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Dave, aye. Jerry,
Aye.
Kevin.
Aye.
All right, so now it's on paper.
Thank you.
Right on. All right,
How do you pronounce your name?
Mehmet.
Mehmet?
Yeah, just like Dr. Oz.
Sorry, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
good.
It's my only point of reference. I'm
All
sorry.
right. All right, we gotta move on. So your business is done, sir.
Thank you.
All right,
Keep going.
let us know,
Have a good
please.
night.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, report of a porta potty and grills along the shoreline of 81 Point Grove Road.
Yeah, we got a report, actually, I think multiple reports saying that people felt uncomfortable with the grills and porta potty that were placed over at, I think it's the Congamon Marina. It was PB&J's. So here's the porta potty right here. These are the grills. I guess the concern was that possibly if the porta potty got tipped over, stuff could leak into the lake, and as well as the charcoal maybe would be tossed into the lake as well. So I just wanted to see if the commission had an issue with this, or if they think it's fine.
Sabrina, can you put that up on the screen so I can see it?
Sorry, am I not sharing?
No.
You don't share well.
Were they told?
Can you see it now?
Were they told to put a
Not
fence
yet.
around,
Now I can.
similar to? Something that was prevented from tipping.
What's that?
There is a precedent on that at the Southbound Association. They allowed the porta potty and they were told to put it on a concrete pad and put a fence around it. Would
Yeah.
the same rules apply for this, which might keep it
That
from
doesn't work,
getting
that.
tipped over?
How do I,
It's okay.
oops. I can figure it out. I just need to,
So did Board of Health weigh in?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
Um,
Yeah. Something should be.
I did speak with DEP and they didn't really see an issue. They said if the conservation, if you guys had an issue, maybe we could ask them to move the porta potty like closer to the restaurant itself. Cause I think he also owns the restaurant as well.
He does.
Or
I'm
putting,
not sure if he does or not.
putting in the fence.
But, you know, like I said, like I mentioned, there's a precedent for this. You know, I'm wondering if that would solve the problem. Can it just go to the other side of that? It looks like there's a post or a fence or something.
Others,
Could they just kitty corner it into there, maybe?
over through here?
Yeah, like,
Let's see if I
Yeah,
have
so-
another angle. No, I don't have another angle.
see how this is like that,
Ye-
there?
ye-
And if they put it here?
I think that's,
The walkway.
Is it somebody else's place?
I'm actually not sure if they launch their own boats there.
Might have something to do with how they empty it too. Sometimes the companies want them in a certain position. They just drop a pipe in it and the hose and, you know, they just suck it out. That's what they do.
Okay. So Jerry, can we ask you to reach out to them since you know of the precedent and
Well-
see if they would be willing to fence it? Before we ask them
Would
to
that
move
solve the
it?
problem?
I think the concern is it falling over, right?
Yeah.
If someone were to tip it, I think that was the concern.
Would the fence have to be such that it could not tip in any direction,
Well, three sides, and,
including forward? You can lock it in
yeah, that's
between the
true.
poles.
You know, you gotta get to it, so.
Right.
And then so does the guy emptying it, like I said, because I believe there is an issue with these guys. They just mentioned that they wanted the one
On our,
on our association needs to
Association.
be placed in a certain way. so that they could get to it,
To get their hose down there?
to get their hose down there,
Yeah.
So I don't know if a fence would solve the problem here, I just know that that was one of the orders of condition that we placed on another beach association. This isn't a beach association, it's a marina, so I don't know if it's even the same comparison.
I would prefer them to have the porta potty than to not have the porta potty.
Agreed.
It's probably for like, voters who come to pick up pizza, needing to use the bathroom, and they're sitting there. I mean, I don't know. it's
And that
probably
is a
People
public-
sitting there,
Yeah,
people sitting at those picnic tables consuming liquids,
yeah.
Yeah,
so.
I think, so,
In the potty, they
I went
don't-
down by there, those tables are only available to the people that are members of the marina, those aren't public tables, so if you go to the restaurant, you can't eat at those tables. So those are only for the people at the marina, which doesn't make that big a difference, but just so you know.
That would be up to them to police it, right?
Yeah.
As well as the use of the porta
Yeah.
potty.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be as simple as just reaching out to the owner and
I
saying,
mean, we can certainly do that, would that solve the problem from our point of view?
Somehow secure it to the fence, I mean, it's.
Like Andy said, it's gonna be open on at least one of the sides.
Seems like there's a steel pipe.
And that-
You just clamp it to
you know?
those pipes, so it won't come over.
So, right, I suppose if you closed off the side closest to the lake and had the open side this way, then
That
that's
would
the,
prevent it from.
that would be
being
the only way it could be tipped if it were gonna be tipped. I don't know the logistics of all this, I just, cite a reference to it.
Mhm.
Well, the town has them on the other side, right, in the parking lot, it's like.
At the launch areas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess
But
that's
they're
where they've had
way
the
back.
issue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not-
way
yeah,
back
this
in
is-
the back, yeah.
15 feet away from the lake.
Right. That's a good point.
well, again, why don't we start with just having a conversation, see if they're even willing to just move it, but if not, will they put up a fence around it? Just, if we can get them to work with us as opposed to being hammered, it's, I think, better neighbor policy.
If you wanna go with me to talk to these people at some point? Some point, at your convenience.
Yeah, I could come.
Maybe we could drag Norm.
Hmm.
Norm?
There you go.
He's laughing.
Norton's on the Cape, he's not going to any porta potty stuff. All right, so why don't we do that for now? If things change, Jerry, just let us know.
Okay.
All right, moving on, a report of possible mining at 237 Sheep Pasture Road, cease and desist issued by the building department.
Yeah, I sent you guys the paperwork for this, that was sent out to the owner of 237 Sheep Pasture. So yeah, a cease and desist was issued by the building department. I guess in the past, they had, conservation had contacted the owner about this issue. I had looked at the aerials, it didn't look like they were getting any closer to the brook out there, so I don't know if there's any concern, as far as conservation issues. I know in the past also this was under the rare species zone, in that.
National Heritage?
In the atlas, but the updated atlas, it's not in that. So there's that.
So right now, there's really, this is informational, no action.
It's information, I mean, you guys, can read it, say if you wanna take any action, on it, let me know. I don't see,
What kind of mining?
like sand and gravel.
Oh, okay.
Right back, it's by Great Brook.
Diamonds. They
Yeah.
mine all the way to South Africa,
Ruby,
they're pulling them out through the
sapphire.
hole.
All right, moving on. Discuss any comments, questions for NRCS Watershed Operations Program Draft Preliminary Investigative Findings Report. Poof, that's a tough one to say, I'm not doing it again. What are we
Just a-
doing here?
Just a 42-page report.
It is a
Right.
42-page report.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Did anybody get a chance
I
to?
did.
You did, okay,
The whole
good,
thing.
at least someone
Yeah.
did.
Like a
did you
rubber.
find any typos?
No, it
No,
was
Wow.
perfect, whoever typed it was immaculate.
dang.
Yeah.
Do you have any
comments or questions that you can direct directly to them?
We're talking about like the overflow water in the lake and what to do with it. And it was just,
Yep.
you know, the idea of putting in a pipe and letting the water out, it's like, well, where do the invasive species go, or are they already getting out anyways? I guess, and it didn't discuss where that pipe would be. I'm guessing it would be in North Pond, going down through the wash into Great Brook. which
That is
would bring a
correct.
lot of water, Which would flood Craig's Tea House.
Isn't the natural flow out of
Maybe
South
make me
Pond?
waterfront.
It would, yeah, you would be almost walking, no, that's too far from your house, that's behind your neighborhood. You go down through that wash, so it would follow like the old canal path down to Great Brook.
Yeah.
But would it, what else would it let out of the lake into that section of Great Brook, and how would it affect the down, it didn't get into that, how would it affect the downstream people? It's kind of interesting.
I mean, if you have questions you want to forward off to them, type them up. We'll send them over. and-
No elevation issue, this would just be like a pipe?
Well, there was like 4 or 5 different options. The lake water comes up, and then the water comes back into the lake from the 2 outlets, because the water comes up faster evidently. So, I mean, so like Great Brook comes up, and the other outlet to the south, the old canal comes up. So, you know, why not clear those out so the water can get out instead of come in?
Right.
That wasn't discussed at all.
I think there is a plan to do that already, but
One of the options was to buy all the houses that are affected and return it to natural habitat and just let it flood. Didn't discuss like putting the houses on stilts and letting it flood, but that wasn't an option. Like, let's reconstruct the houses and let it flood. Wasn't even in there as an option. And then it didn't say where all the money was coming from to do this.
Right.
You know, would it be an additional tax on lakefront people who now have a more stable lake?
Norm, where does this go next?
Would the whole town have to pay for it?
Well,
And since the whole town can't use the lake.
Right.
Lake management is studying this as well. It's not what Lake Management was looking for. They wanted to dredge Canal Brook and Great Brook in order to let the flow of water continue in the normal fashion that it does today, and that is from North Pond to South Pond and out to Canal Brook.
Correct.
Okay. This change of putting this large pipe, and it's not just a little pipe, it's a large pipe in North Pond, changes the flow of water when that pipe is open to the opposite direction. Today, the cleanest water is in North Pond, the dirtiest water is in South Pond. So if we start to use that pipe, it's going to change the cleanliness of the water pattern that's in the lakes today. Okay. So we're still studying it, to be honest with you. But in both, on 2 of the 4 alternatives, they talk that you need to change the culverts, that the inter-pond culverts need to be double the size.
That changed the culverts to bridges, so that they could put between the lakes. instead of
To increase
culverts.
the flow?
It would allow the water to flow more freely between the lakes.
Right.
And also, Norm, if you allowed the water out through the South Canal and Great Brook, it would actually make the water in South Pond cleaner, because you'd have more flow.
Right.
So the culverts you're talking between north and middle, and then middle and south, which weren't those recently done within the last
decade?
20 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say 20 years.
That's how it's always done. They change those into bridges. We could put drawbridges, so we could have sailboats. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. It's a shame that that wasn't thought of ahead of time,
yeah.
when they were just placing those.
They call it Mystic North.
Yeah. All right, well, that's an ongoing saga.
Yep.
And if you have
I like the bigger pipe.
questions you want to formulate in writing, and we can certainly
Sure.
send them on to the appropriate authority.
Sorry, I read it now.
Yeah. Norm, questions forthcoming. All right.
Okay.
We're finally gonna get to old business.
So the first one is a request for a certificate of compliance for 200A Hillside Avenue. I don't believe anybody is on for the applicant there, so we're just gonna continue that as we have for the last quite some time. All right, the next old business is 10/12 Island Pond and the Congamon Heights Association LPP dock placement, discussion and possible shoreline alteration. So, I see a crowd. I'm assuming the majority of the people are here regarding the, for the Congamon Heights Association. So I will say this, that Norm, Jerry, myself went out with Chief of Police Landis, and we went over to the property and we pulled the property to determine the length, depth of the water, if the dock was reorientated more southerly, keeping it anchored where it is, but moving it southerly. Is there an opportunity, is it gonna impede the flow of traffic? And we came to the conclusion that there is enough depth, if you do reorient it, that they would be able to get their boats in and out of there, right? Yeah, so that being said, I just want to go on record as this is something that continually keeps coming back up. This has been reviewed by Conservation and the Harbor Master back in 2014, as well as 2020. In both of those cases, Conservation and the Harbor Master agreed to provide the Cranians at 12 Island Pond hardship relief to be able to keep their dock where it is. The big concern is it's not 25 feet from their shoreline, or from their property line. So there is precedent that we were kind of hands-off with this. A new complaint came in. We're being asked to address that. So I guess from both sides of the conversation, I see Mr. Carani is online, as well as people from the Congamon Heights Association. So, no, I'd like to though. Who wants to start? Who is that?
Hi, Carol Ann Gothier, 6 Island Pond Road. Congamon Heights Association nominated as president again this year, and our
He can introduce
attorney.
himself.
Attorney Ray Zentgert from Westfield, but I am a Southwick resident. So.
Okay, so we have Mr. Karanian on the phone. He's here via Zoom. To be honest with you, I think we're all adults in the room. I don't see any reason why we can't come to an amicable agreement on what's gonna happen here. I think we, as a Conservation Commission, as well as a Harbor Master, have been through this. I think you know where we've stood in the past regarding the placement of this dock. If there's a way to make it a little bit more accessible for your folks, that's fine. But let's not push it. Okay, so again, we're two adults here. You guys kind of have a conversation with where you think you want this to go.
Well, the current placement where it's at is, as you know, elbowed 8 feet per Steve Salvini into our waterways. And then, if you want to pass that around, there's also a pontoon boat on that side. With the pontoon boat on that side, take the 8 feet of the dock, take the 9 feet wide of the pontoon boat, and then how they waffle when they're tied against a dock, that's almost 20 feet of waterway.
Okay.
We were asked to put our docks over 10 feet. We go 15. We'd like to go back to our 15-foot placement on the southerly dock. and would-
15 from the property line?
Yes.
Why are you asking for an accommodation when you have concerns with your neighbor's placement on the property line? It seems like you're asking for something you're not willing to grant.
No. We have already been granted a variance of the 15-foot
By who?
by Dennis Clark and a 10-foot prior in,
But you're asking, right, Dennis Clark was in conservation.
correct.
Okay, so conservation has already said on two occasions that Karanian's dock is fine. So you're not willing to accept that, but you want us to accept what conservation said about your property.
Well, with the conversations that I also had with Lake Management, they were in the opinion that maybe if their dock was a little shorter, they would be able to push it over and it would not be a navigational issue to the canal. And they really don't have issue with it getting moved over. And we received the variance for the 15 feet. I don't understand why.
From conservation.
Correct. So
Right.
why is that changing? Because they have moved their dock over towards our area.
I've seen that dock for many years. It seems to be in the same place. I don't think they've moved the dock.
Yes.
I think maybe the orientation of the dock, but the anchor point's been there.
The anchor point was not there. They had a different dock, and it used to be kept on the southerly border. Then after they had a pontoon boat is when it moved over to more on our side to accommodate the speedboat and the ski boat and the pontoon boat and the jet ski. So we're not asking for a change. We're asking to reorientate where we had permission to put our dock.
So this was 2020,
Right, yes.
right? So it's exactly where it was, and it's the same dock. And that was approved by conservation.
Right, and in 2020, let me get my notes, it was said it could be left there for that season, and I was told that we could discuss it further after that. Let me get my
I have it.
notes on that.
I have it.
For the 2020 boating season.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm just saying there's precedent, just like you're stating, there's precedent for you, there's precedent for that, right? So I mean, we can all chime in, but my feeling is you have the person that's a half an inch fence away from you on the phone. Figure it out. You guys are adults right here. I mean, you want us to vote to see if we should move it?
I have a suggestion.
Please.
Mr. McCooley, yeah. Overall, I think this issue of the dock is just one of about 5 or 6 different items of contention between the parties, some of which are within the purview of conservation, some are not. You and I had a brief conversation before the meeting, and you had suggested that since Mr. Karanian is available, I came in late on this, you
Understood,
understand.
that's fine.
Yeah. And you had suggested that, is there a way that we might be able to have some discussions and to work these things out? I also spoke with Steve Salvini, the surveyor who did all that, and he has some good ideas. I just spoke with him before he left the meeting today. My suggestion is if it's,
I don't want to take this up on the microphone.
if it's possible, just to table this so that perhaps I could get in touch with Attorney Karanian and see whether we could have some discussions and mediate this dispute and have a global settlement of all the issues.
That would be like Christmas for me.
Yeah.
And
I'm pretty good at
I don't know about how
that.
the rest of us feel, but I mean, I would be much happier if you can settle this amongst yourselves. I mean,
I had no contact. I would like that as well.
okay, I mean, listen, I understand you and your community have needs. He and his family have needs. You all should have access to the lake, and there needs to be a way to figure that out. So, Mr. Karanian, the concept of you and the attorney here having a conversation directly, are you open to that?
Can you hear me? Certainly. I would always be open to a discussion. This is the first approach I've had in terms of discussing anything, but certainly any kind of reasonable resolution is always the preferred method. I do have concerns though in terms of what kind of resolution they're looking for. As far as I'm concerned, I believe the issue is pretty straightforward. The dock has been where it's been since 2014. Police Chief Ducardi made the finding back in 2014. A complaint was again made in 2020. Nothing had changed. The same finding was made by Chairman Pratt at that time. And here we are again 3 years later with the same complaint about the same issue, and nothing has changed. I would like this issue to be resolved once and for all and be done with it. We've found twice now that the dock is not an issue. And we keep going on with this and going on with this. I don't want to have to deal with this every meeting for the next 2 months into next year. I think it needs resolution. As much as I'm here and open to resolution, I think it needs to be done, and I'd like it to be done today. I think the other issue is that the Congamon Heights Beach Association, all four of their beaches are in violation of the regulations of local permitting program 2.0 requirements. All those beaches have 2 docks. That is not compliant with the regulations. All those docks need to be within 25 feet of the shoreline. That is not in regulation. I would like to live peacefully with my dock where it is, and I'm willing to let them live peacefully with their docks the way they are. That's the resolution that I'm asking for, and that's the resolution that should happen.
So for the record, it's been disseminated amongst the commission. There's a formal complaint that's been filed against the Congamon Heights Association regarding the placement of your docks as well. I've had a long conversation with the police chief and harbor master, and he's pretty confident that you folks are in violation, and that if you were brought into compliance, it may cost each of your beaches probably one of those docks, which is probably not palatable to the people sitting behind you. So, you know, I think my concern is if you live in glass houses, you've got to expect broken windows, right? And if you're levying complaints about non-compliance for your neighbor, then you've got to look at what's going on your own property. And this is what's happening right now. There's a formal complaint against you, which we have to follow up with, just like you issued a formal complaint with your neighbor. I go back to, why don't the two of you figure it out before both of you wind up getting punished for something that you don't want to get punished for?
I'm happy to do that, and I'll renew my request and ask Attorney Karanian if we could discuss this over the next couple of weeks and see if we can do a global resolution of all of the issues that are points of contention between these two parties.
So let me take a straw poll of the members of the committee. If they agree to go to our next meeting and nothing changes, their dock's gonna stay right where it is until our next meeting, and we come to a resolution, then all is good. If you don't come to a resolution, are you all ready to make a decision at that meeting?
So why does this fall under our jurisdiction?
Because we are responsible for the local permitting process for the docks.
Because I would think it would be more of a harbor master issue.
It's in conjunction with both of us.
Okay.
So
He would be involved.
the harbor master's really, speaking with the harbor master, he's not really concerned about the placement of the docks. He's concerned about navigation. And right now he says there's no navigation issue as far as he's concerned, right? And I was over at, what is it, what's the other property? Brayton? Yeah, so I was over there today and I just snapped a picture of one of your docks over there, and it seems to be the same issue over there. If you look at your dock compared to your neighbor's dock over there, there's no space between those docks for another boat to slide into there.
That's because we own all the way over to almost at that dock line. They only have the very,
Are you within 25 feet of your?
Yes.
Okay, then you're not in violation. I mean, you're in violation.
I'm not, no, we are 25 feet away.
This is 25 feet from that shoreline? Because
Marty?
otherwise your neighbor is on your property.
The neighbor on this side, this, can I?
If you're
show-
looking at the water, that's
Marty?
on the left.
Could you come up, please? Yes, if you're looking at the water, that's the dock on the left. We own all the way in front of their waterfront yard. We own all the way over to the corner. They only own 10 feet over there.
Okay, is there a dock on their property?
Yes.
Okay, so you're,
25 feet from them?
it doesn't look like 25 feet to me.
Be close.
Yeah, so
So
if you
the two
go to the
boats-
other
The two
side.
boats are 10 feet wide, and then
I'm
there's
sorry.
another 10 feet.
Oh, yeah, can you recognize, you need to speak up who you are
Oh, I'm Martin Andrus,
and address?
2 Pine Road.
Thank you.
So both boats are about 10 feet wide,
hmm
and there's another 10 feet in between,
So that's 15 feet.
30 feet.
30
Well, I
feet.
mean, if you
That's
split the
10.
difference, it's, right, 15 feet from the midline.
Yes.
Isn't their dock right on their 10-foot line? So
I
it's
don't
all
know
the
if
waterway-
they're
all
on the edge of
waterway
their
is
property or
ours?
not, because their
So-
frontage is
Sorry,
very
I-
narrow.
No, that's fine. And if you go to the other side, you're kind of looking at the same thing, right? If where those stones kick in, I'm assuming that's the property line,
Yes,
and your dock is right up against that.
yes.
Okay, so again, you're within the 25 feet on both sides of that property. And, again, my conversation with the harbor master, if he held you to the 25 feet, you're gonna wind up losing one of those docks.
Well, they'd be pushed in the middle.
Right, and you would have no navigation between them.
Yeah.
So, again, the whole glass stone conversation, right? You can't hold people accountable for what they're doing on their property without having them come back at you and hold you accountable for what's going on in your property. So let's not go down that road. Mr. Cranian, are you agreeable to just 2 weeks, and then if not, we'll make a decision? I truly
Absolutely.
would like to see you guys do this on your own.
When a variance
I'm in
is-
agreement.
When it's rescinded,
Your issue is your variance is for a year, just like your neighbors,
okay,
right? It's the
Okay.
same thing.
that
You're-
is not what I was told, okay.
That's
Okay.
fine, but
Okay.
I mean, why would your variance be different than any other variance?
I didn't think it was, to
Yeah.
tell you the truth.
Yeah, so it's year by year, right?
Okay.
So we don't want to revisit your variance every year, just like we don't want to revisit his variance. And I will say, if you folks come to agreement, as long as I'm on this commission, I don't ever want to see it again, right? You guys come up to a decision that's amicable for both of you, and then put it to rest, and then we can all live happily ever after, okay?
Because if we get involved, we're gonna start really getting into the tape measure
I've
stuff.
even talked to the chief of police,
Yeah.
he's like, listen, if we're gonna have to hold everybody accountable to that nth of an inch, it's gonna stir up people on the entire lake.
That's right.
And nobody wants to go, you can't pick and choose, all of a sudden,
Right.
everybody's gonna be held accountable, and that has a bigger impact than just you and Mr. Cranian, so, I'm gonna make a motion that we continue this until the next meeting. Mr. Cranian, you said you're in agreement?
I'm in agreement, yes.
Are you guys in agreement to continue?
Yes.
All right.
Mr. Cranian.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Attorney Zentgert, could I have your email, please?
I'd rather not give it on a broadcast.
She
I-
has my email, I can exchange it.
Okay, I'll get it then. I'll get it tomorrow. I'll send an email to you tomorrow.
That works.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Thanks so
All
much.
right, thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night now.
Yeah, we have to vote to continue.
Kevin seconded.
There we go.
Jerry?
Aye.
Aye.
Norm?
Aye.
Excellent, all right. 12 Hillside Road, information request for restoration of brook on APR property.
No updates.
No updates, okay. Follow-up on migratory beekeeping event that was held by Sabrina and Billy Crawford.
Yeah, so we had our local beekeeper who owns New England apiaries come in and talk about his migratory bees. His bees go basically from California all the way to Maine, pollinating different types of crops. It was very interesting. Billy is,
How do they track them?
how do they track him? He moves
little
him
tags.
himself.
They sign in.
Yeah,
Why all the way
they all
to
have
California?
garments.
That's a lot of buzzing.
I watch it.
I'm from California.
No, it was crazy seeing the photographs of like all of the hives on the back of a truck that they just truck them. Insane. I wouldn't want to be that driver,
Yeah.
right?
I wouldn't want to be that bee.
Or the bee either, right?
Massachusetts, probably, what?
But,
Damn cold.
yeah, Mr. Crawford is very intelligent. He always gives a good talk. I'm very happy he came out and,
Is this a bearded fellow on this, what is it, the Big Y commercial?
Yes.
Is that him?
Yes.
That's him, right?
no, he doesn't have a beard,
No?
Doesn't he?
Maybe,
but he
No.
is in Big Y. He
Yeah,
does
he's a
sound-
younger looking gentleman.
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't have a beard.
He's got the beekeeping hat.
That's
hat
right.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that fooled us.
Yeah,
He did a good job.
Yeah.
He did a good job. I was only able to join for a couple of minutes because we were at tandem with the master plan. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, just two more things that I have and then whatever you folks have. The work that was done at North Pond and South Pond yesterday, I want to thank those who were available to help. That was awesome. I know we had,
I'm not gonna make that.
was it 6 high schoolers out there, split up between the two properties?
6 for the interactive club, and then we had Andy's daughter and niece
Yeah.
as well.
So at North Pond, under the supervision of Norm, I know where the drainage was redone, they seeded and put straw down. Norm, thanks for finding that straw and bringing that out. I was trying to find some. Kevin turned me on to, who was it? Cowards, but I never got a chance to get out there, so I don't know why you have straw kicking around, but there's probably a couple of dead scarecrows in your basement. Thanks for that. That should make a big difference. And also regarding North Pond too, on a side note, so the fence is up. They're gonna move a couple of sections of it tomorrow just to reconfigure it a little bit better, but I think it came out really nice looking. And it should hopefully help control the parking in that property, and it just spruces it up a little better.
I just realized that they got that done that quickly. I feel like when we talked about, I mean, I know it's been a couple weeks to us here, but that was quick. I feel like
They were supposed to be like 5 weeks out, and
Yeah.
they kind of pushed us up.
that's good.
Yeah, and I met with them today so there's, on the left side when you pull in, they didn't really build a full corral. There's one side with a fence corralled, and then the fence just kind of followed along the parking lot over by the kiosk. And the problem is, if you park too far down and someone parks on the opposite side, it makes it really difficult for the emergency vehicles to get in and out. It gets really narrow. So like I said, he's gonna take the last 2 sections out, close off that corral and put a side rail there so people won't park there. And ultimately, you're looking at probably parking slots for 8 vehicles. You know? And again, looks good.
Does the Southwick High School have like a conservation club or conservation anything?
They don't, that I know of. So these were folks from the Interact Club. We've worked in the past or had conversations with your National Honor Society. We do have one of their students that's looking to do an internship with us next spring. So it's good to see them getting involved.
I'm just thinking if they had something like that that they could get credit for,
Yeah.
they could volunteer in the fall, in the spring, maybe even summer. you know,
Well, like this Interact
and,
Club and
and
National
get some
Honor
credit
Society,
for it,
they
you know.
do have to do volunteer work for both
Okay.
of those, so they do get credit for those. And regarding Safanovsky's property, what,
So, we had 3 girls come in, they had never been on the property, so I didn't want to split them up. What they did is they put up new trail markers for the white trail and the orange trail. A lot of them were rotted and fallen off the trees. Dave had made these markers a couple days before.
That's what I
And
do.
Andy and his daughter and niece helped with some trees that had fallen down over a path and over the field. They had cut those up, right? Cut those up. As well as in the entranceway, there was a rule sign that was kind of hidden by vegetation, so he cleared out that area in front, so now you can see the rules once you like drive in.
Awesome.
And we also kind of cleaned up, spruced up the kiosk a little bit. So a lot of the documents that were in there were sun damaged, so I need to redo those. And we took some vines down that were along the fence of the community garden. Pretty productive.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And your senior. Appreciate that.
It was a good
Awesome.
walk. Sure.
Yeah, that's good.
It was
That's
below
good.
tick and mosquito temperature was.
Yeah,
even
like we
nicer.
looked out with the weather, it was nice and cool, and there wasn't, at least where I was, there wasn't a lot of bugs. So,
Yeah, it wasn't so buggy this last weekend.
yeah, breezy.
Hey, Joe.
So last thing on the agenda, it's not even on the agenda, but we need to put it on the agenda. So 2 weeks from now is a holiday, town hall is closed. 2 weeks from that, so July 3rd, we believe town hall is
It's
closed.
possible, I don't know yet, we haven't gotten the calendar, however, who wants to be here on
You
July
might have a hard
3rd?
time getting a quorum on
Right, I
Monday,
feel like
July
people are gonna
3rd.
be on vacation.
So I don't think we go a month and a half before another meeting.
End of the month?
So can we pick a date that works for everybody? It doesn't have to be a Monday. And once we pick a date, we'll find a home so that we can
So here's what,
serve the public between now and then.
if you don't wanna have it,
On the
if you wanna have
26th.
it later, yeah, so I'm gonna be gone from 22nd to probably the following Tuesday, including the Tuesday.
Well, let's look at
So that's all the 20s almost.
if we can get a quorum that allows you to go off and do what you gotta do, that would be great.
Can you
I
zoom
think,
in from where you are? Can you zoom in from where you are? Yeah, I could, but I would rather not.
so the
I've
20,
done it. Actually, I stayed in the meeting if it worked.
let's go. Norm, would you be available on June 26th?
Is that a Monday?
Yeah.
Yep.
Andy, what do you think?
Good to me.
Okay, right now, I don't have anything on my calendar, so that's 3. Jerry?
Yeah, I think I can do the 26th.
So that's 4, that's a quorum. Kevin?
I think I can, as weather permitting, I'll be on the must be out for that.
Okay,
No, I'm in
So-
France. The week
so-
of the 4th, I won't be.
okay, so why don't we try for the 26th? We'll see if we can get that on the town's calendar as well as get a room.
Is that a
Nobody asked me.
Monday? When is that?
Gene, are you available the 26th? We knew you were available.
That is a Monday, yeah, okay.
You're hiding over there now. I don't even see you over there.
That's because you guys pick up too much room.
That's true. We're all on
Yeah,
diets.
I won't be here for that one, I don't think.
So why don't we look at the 26th right now? And if that changes, that doesn't work with,
Well, my plans change
Building.
often, so if I don't get to do this thing that I plan on doing, I'll be here.
okay,
How's that?
all good. Joe, anything? You're just saying hi.
Yeah.
Good, good. Well, you missed all the fun.
Well, in the selectmen's meeting, I saw the commotion, so I came up and I thought, oh, maybe I should sit and at least,
Yeah, no, commotion was.
There's commotion here?
that was in Burbridge out there.
Oh, yeah, well, they didn't get what they wanted to hear.
You would think so.
Right, so, I'll make a motion to close the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody, for joining that's not here in person. Appreciate your time, and we'll let the world know when we're gonna meet again.
Ending the
Thank you.
meeting.